She couldn't play.
I must admit, I lost a little respect for Caitlin Clark. I thought she was it.
ESPN media, recently shattered by Caitlin Clark, who adores believing they are in charge of the sports industry, correct? But hey, what do you know? Caitlin Clark simply destroyed their small delusion. It's also almost time. Since its founding in 1979, ESPN has acted as if it were the gatekeepers of all things sports-related, determining who is featured and who is kept in the background. The NBA, NFL, MLB, NFL, MLB, and even women's sports have all experienced this. They were, however, exposed when they attempted to conceal a gifted person like Caitlin Clark. And I'm not referring to a small error here. This was an aggressive attempt to put their preferred faces in front of us and ignore the one player who was actively changing the rules. Caitlin Clark performs this every night, not one of them. So everyone put on a front of detesting these Duke players. Yes, they are entitled and pampered. Caitlin Clark is the real spoilt, entitled player at Duke. Let's start by discussing Jason Whitelock, the man who never hesitates to make outrageous and unfounded claims, particularly with Caitlin Clark. Still, let's pause to admire the inventiveness. That is, labeling Clark a crybaby and a flopper and saying that she is acting like a victim. Well done, Jason. One of the best athletes in the game has been reduced to a caricature in your mind by your skill. It must have taken a great deal of work, surely? The problem is that it's not working, Jason. She plays a low IQ, entertaining, and stat-stuffing style of basketball. Indeed, I did say that. Caitlin Clark plays basketball with a low IQ. She's fascinating. I adore it. Is Clark a low IQ player according to you? Really? Do we watch the same sports together? Clark isn't merely boosting his stats for amusement. You sit behind a desk, crassly commenting on her basketball IQ while she's winning games, dominating her team, and setting records. Come for Clark's basketball acumen, but at least support it with something more substantial than your fever dream. This is no stupid ball. This is really advanced stuff. You're obviously not on that level. Her glaring flaws are invisible to Clark's devotees because they are so captivated and amused, especially the white ones. Then we get to the section where you discuss the followers of Clark, particularly the white ones. Well, Jason, it seems like you were unable to resist. That was somewhere you had to go. It is insufficient to critique her gameplay. It's necessary to discuss racism as though it were a major conspiracy. You're behaving as though her skin tone prevents people from seeing her talent. Allow me to correct the information. Caitlin Clark is not being worshipped because she is a white woman. She is so amazing that they are in awe of her. Her skill set is indisputable and is not racialized. Wow, that's not even subtle what you said about a league run by angry black lefties. It appears as though you included every cliche you could think of to see what would stick. Perhaps you should concentrate more on the fact that Clark is outperforming everyone and less on attempting to set people against one another, regardless of political inclination or skin tone. However, since ESPN is unable to refute statistics no matter how hard they try, let's speak about the figures. It wasn't simply that Caitlin Clark shattered Simone Augustus's rookie scoring record. She destroyed it in 2024, earning 761 points. But did ESPN immediately give her the credit she deserved? Naturally, no. The funny thing is that ESPN has been exposed for years engaging in this selective behavior. When you consider it, it's ironic. Caitlin Clark is putting up numbers that make you wonder if the rest of the league is playing in slow motion. ESPN wants to promote players who fit their predetermined narrative. Unfortunately, ESPN would rather to force marketable faces down our throats. Narratives, characters who suit their agendas, and drama. Not to be overlooked is Molly Caron, one of ESPN's most audible voices, who has gone above and above to sideline Caitlin. Molly would prefer to support athletes who align with ESPN's ideology, but Clark has made that task extremely challenging. Here's the reality, though. One cannot conceal their abilities. And at this point, Molly and ESPN just look ridiculous, no matter how hard they try. She hadn't even participated in a game yet, but she was getting all the recognition and appreciation for everything that was going on in the WNBA. People were simply saying to one other, respect the other stars, respect who came before you. She's practically pounding the table on ESPN's First Take, wondering why Clark is receiving so much attention. Really, girl? Do we both watch the same WNBA? Molly appears to be tuned into a different reality, one in which Clark isn't rewriting history each time she takes the court. Rather, she would like to discuss how other players ought to get the limelight. Oh, you mean like Angel Reese, who, when Caitlin is in control, has been more of a cheerleader than a real rival. Molly genuinely believes that Reese's applause from the sidelines is comparable to Clark's historic feats. Really, that should be enough evidence for you to conclude that Molly is insane. She is constantly saying things like it's unfair to the other women and bringing up talents like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson who deserve more. People were basically saying respect the other stars like Aja Wilson's and respect those who came before you. Angel Reese and similar figures are also drawing attention to the league. But shall we dissect it now? Caitlin Clark is not merely a marketing gimmick. In terms of assists and scoring, she is leading the league. That's not just a sweet little statistic either. In 2024, that works out to 10.6 assists per game. Angel Reese's contributions, meanwhile, are primarily limited to his pranks on social media and his applause when Clark is assaulted. Yes, Molly, let's continue talking about that. Molly seems to be hostile to the notion that genuine talent is worthy of recognition. Oh no, Molly claims that other players aren't receiving the credit they merit. Truly, Molly, who is the victim here exactly? Wilson and Reese are well known due to their media appearances. Caitlin Clark, meantime, is raking in triple doubles as if she were brushing her teeth. However, that in some way isn't newsworthy. It's almost too rich in irony. In actuality, Molly believes she has a point. With her head held high, she appears to be defending the honor of women's basketball. You're just defending ESPN's stale agenda, sweetie. How about Stephen A. Smith? Yes, he is not amused. Every time Molly attempts to minimize Clark's accomplishments, Stephen simply stands there shaking his head in shock. It's obvious he's finished. He even delivered that timeless line to Molly. I'm let down by you. I'm disappointed in you, Molly. Now that we've come this far, I'm sad. What took place? The kind of heat Shannon and I have had to endure is us. US, what's up, Molly? Shannon sharpens similarly. It's vicious how he's reflecting that mirror back at Molly. Without hesitation, he stated, what I'm saying is that a lot of you came up here. Additionally, you guys were telling Caitlin Clark not to shine since there were women who came before her who didn't get shined because she was getting shined. You know, those people who wrote Clark off so quickly before she even began to set the league on fire. And what do you know? Crickets. Because no one has the courage to acknowledge that Molly and her group were completely mistaken. You persistently promote the idea that Clark's disproportionate recognition compromises the fairness of the game in some way. In reality, Molly is displeased with the fact that Caitlin Clark's skill cannot be overlooked. It's also interfering with her tidy little ESPN schedule. Shannon, Molly, none predicted they would take home the gold. Whoever was most worthy of the position was it? The others who were in America but lacked brilliance. Molly, they said both. Molly, hurry up, that's where they were. She has been making it seem as though it were a crime against the women who came before her to give Clark her due. Here's the issue, Molly, though. The game changes over time. Clark is above average. She's groundbreaking. Furthermore, you cannot continue to act as though it isn't the case because you would prefer that someone else take center stage. However, Molly has a tendency to cling to her small story in the hopes that we won't realize that she's been working to keep Clark hidden. Alas, it is too late. Everyone has witnessed it. And the supporters aren't taking it lightly. It's not just a fad. Clark deserves more. There's no turning back this full-on movement, no matter how much spin ESPN throws at it. Next up is Skip Bayless, who no longer has regard for Clark. I have to admit that my regard for Caitlin Clark decreased a little. She seemed like the right one to me. As in, really, you guessed it, Skip. To begin with, you had nothing to lose. Who precisely are you to claim you no longer respect one of the best players the WNBA has ever seen while you sit there riffling through papers? It's practically absurd. You've made a living on bold statements and dubious viewpoints, but this one could be the winner. Here he is, reading from a script as if he understands what is truly happening. We aren't, I assure you, just sitting here dumbfounded. Let's face it, everyone with eyes can see what Caitlin Clark has been bringing to the table, so we really do know. It wasn't long before Clark began to dominate every game in the WNBA. And now this guy wants to appear as though he's qualified to ask her questions, please. That's not the whole truth. Skip Bayless, the truth will assist you, God willing. Therefore, I don't mean to offend you or God. The executives at ESPN were not happy about what Skip is either mistaken or has forgotten. Seeing someone try to argue that water isn't moist is as absurd as Coram, Skip, and Jason's criticisms at this point. In just one season, Caitlin Clark has accomplished more than half of the league combined. Furthermore, why are these individuals still around and acting as though this isn't the case? Disgusting. Every game that Clark participates in serves as a further reminder that ESPN's objective is more concerned with elevating players who suit their mold than it is with providing credit to those who truly merit it. And what do you know? The spectators are able to see through it. ESPN can continue to present its skewed opinions, but the facts and Clark's accomplishments will always exist.